Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashim Yahshua, Bahashim Machakodash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS to give us his truth and all the purity, and salutations to all you Akim pushing this word throughout the four corners of the earth. I'm the brother Yawasap, and this lesson will be touching the plagues that are pelting Babylon. You know, all these different news stories about terrorists, empty shells, and you know, you got wars breaking loose all throughout the four corners of the earth. But this is the Most High systematically destroying Babylon the Great. Matter of fact, this is Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 8. Matter of fact, I'm going to start at 7. It says, Babylon have been a golden cup in the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahshua's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. So Babylon is America, and America has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, you know, that made the earth drunken. Meaning what? This place is, you know, so what I'm looking for. It's an opulent place, so to speak. You know, everybody wants to come here to America. They want to be free, you know, free to do wickedness, you know, free from the laws of their own lands that doesn't allow them to do certain things, you know, feminism, LGBTQ, etc. You know, it says the nations have drunken of her wine, which is America's way of life. You know, these nations have become westernized. What is westernization? Americanization. Western culture is American culture. So these nations have drunken of her wine. And the proof is democracy. Nations model their governments after America, Babylon. You know, they got, you know, votings, right? What else? Religion, Esau's religion, Christianity, you know? What else? You know, this whole New World Order infrastructure and this digital currency that all these nations are implementing. That's how they drunken of Babylon's wine. It says the nations have drunken of a wine, therefore the nations are mad. So these nations, they're sobering up. You know, they're you know, they got drunken, but now they're suffering from, so what I'm looking for, the damn man, you know, when you drink and the day after you feel fucked up. Damn. I know alcohol poisoning is one. Damn, how's it not coming to me, man? But y'all brothers know what I'm talking about. You know, so that's how these nations are feeling. You know, they're waking up for that drunken state and their body's all fucked up. They feel dehydrated. They're feeling grumpy, you know. You know, they're feeling fucked up, man, you know. So they're mad. They're mad at Babylon the Great. That's why you see all these nations now taking up arms to fight against America. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her? Take balm for her pain. If so be, she may be healed. Yeah, so there is no balm for America's pain. America's pain is what? It's collapse, it's decline, it's fall, right? The balm would be Donald Trump. You know, he came up in there and campaigned on prices, groceries going down as soon as he gets in office, him stopping the war between Russia and Ukraine within 24 hours, you know, how America's going to win with the tariffs. You're going to be winning so much. You're going to be so rich. You're going to get tired of winning. You know, that's what he was saying. So that's that balm. Take balm for her pain. If so be, she may be healed. He would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. So nothing can fix the damage that's been done to America, man. And even on a global scale, as far as America's reputation, no country trusts America anymore. Even if, let's say, Donald Trump were taken out of office or, you know, finishes his term and somebody else comes up in there, the damage has already been done. Nobody trusts Babylon anymore. So it says, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go everyone into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. So you're going to have a lot of nations, foreigners leaving America due to what Trump's doing. with the deportations of illegals and U.S. citizens, deporting them to prison camps in El Salvador. And now he's having deals with Libya, Afghanistan, and other countries around the world to send, Americans to those prisons, So a lot of nations, they're seeing that and they're leaving. Matter of fact, you got a, what is it? Historians leaving America. Look, is it in the news? Okay, this is one. Why I'm leaving Trump's America. Historian Marcy Storr. Yep, 3 prominent Yale professors depart for Canadian University. Yeah, you got scientists leaving. Yale professor and historian. She's leaving America. And then there's different videos on it too on YouTube. Why this U.S. historian is leaving Trump's America. Historians are fleeing Trump's America. Yeah, man. So, these historians, they know that history repeats itself, and they see that America is on its decline. And whenever an empire is on a decline, things get very, very bad. The economy gets shot. People die by the droves. There is chaos, lootings, and, killings of government officials. There's insecurity. So these historians, they know that, they see America falling just like the Roman Empire. So they up out of there, man. Matter of fact, let me see. Immigrants leaving U.S. Let's see. Yep, some immigrants are already leaving the U.S. in self-deportations as Trump's threats looms. So a lot of immigrants already leaving. Yep. Yeah, man. So, that's a fulfillment of this prophecy. It says, forsake her and let us go everyone into his own country. And also the economy being destroyed, will lead to heathens, the other nations leaving America. You got Indians, Arabs, Chinese, Africans, all these nations come here to Babylon to, to get a better way of life. They start businesses, and take the money and send it back to their countries, spend it within their communities, give jobs to their own peoples, So as this economy is being destroyed with these tariffs, small businesses in general are going to close, are going to shut down. So, they're not going to have any incentives to stay here in Babylon anymore. The dollar is already losing its value at a historical rate. So, the dollar's going to eventually be worthless. So the heathens, they're going to see that, they're seeing that now. And, they're seeing that, it's better off being in their countries than to be here in Babylon. Plus, America is starting wars with all these other countries, which is going to lead to World War III. So, they don't want that smoke. So they all leaving America and going back to their countries. It says, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up to the skies. So that's going to be when America get destroyed in 1 hour by 200 million warheads. So slack here. So back to the article from CNBC, and it reads, empty shells, trucking layoffs lead to a summer recession in Apollo's shocking trade fight timeline. It says the economic impact of the tariffs imposed by the Trump administration will soon become apparent to everyday Americans and lead to a recession this summer, according to Apollo Global Management. Torsten Slok, chief economist at Apollo, laid out a timeline in a presentation for clients that showed when the impact of tariffs announced by the President Trump could hit the U.S. economy Based on the transport time required for goods from China, U.S. consumers could start to notice trade-related shortages in their local stores next month, according to the presentation. So this was April 28th. So we already end the month, next month. So it says the consequence will be empty shelves in U.S. stores in a few weeks, and COVID-like shortages for consumers and for firms using Chinese products as intermediate goods, Slork wrote in the note to clients Friday. And I think 70 to 80% of American goods are some way, somehow touched by China, even though China, only makes up a certain amount of America's GDP and trade. Well, guess what? It's more than that, man. We got products that's made in China, but there's products that's made here in the U.S. that require Chinese parts. Without China, you can't have no cars because of the chips. Without China, you can't have technology, So, these things are going to affect everyday Americans, man. And China has just put, a few weeks ago, they put a ban on medical equipment to be shipped here to the U.S., which means what? Hospitals are going to close, and, it's not going to, they're not going to have, the necessary equipments to do certain procedures like surgery, There's this woman that was breaking down what, how it would impact the hospitals. And she basically said that now is not the time to be getting hurt, getting into accidents, because let's say you get hurt and you got a broken leg or a broken arm where, they could reconstruct it if they had the proper equipment. But since they won't have it, they would have to amputate a lot of people, So it says tariff to recession timeline. April 2nd, tariffs announced container ship departures from China to U.S. slowing. Early to mid-May, container ships to U.S. ports come to a stop. And this is what we're already starting to see. From all the videos all around the U.S. showing the ports being empty and the ports in China being overflowed, So container ships, ports come to a stop mid to late May. Trucking demand comes to a halt, leading to empty shelves and lower sales for companies. And this is what we're in the midst of. You got a lot of truckers being laid off. A lot of truckers, they're coming on line basically voicing like what's happening and how they're getting lighter loads and how they begin laid off, So that's going to lead to empty shelves. It says late May to early June, layoffs in trucking and retail industries. So this is what we're going to start to see, We're going to start to see business closures. We're already seeing it now, UPS laying off people, a lot of companies, man. It says summer 2025 recession, right? So this summer is going to be a hot summer, man. Let's see. It says almost half of layoffs this year driven by Doge, which those are layoffs in the government sector, A lot of departments being shut down by Doge. You got all these different ex-government employees coming up online, federal employees, and, voicing about how they don't know how they're going to make it, how they can't pay their bills and mortgages. They don't know what to do, Look, WWE releases multiple superstars amid ongoing layoffs, so even the entertainment industry will be affected by this. Look, Bay Area tech workers thought their jobs were safe, then the golden handcuffs came off, so they lost their jobs. UPS cutting around 20,000 jobs amid new and increased tariffs. 164 buildings closing. Yep. Intel reportedly plans to lay off over 21,000 employees. Federal government layoffs tracker. State Department reportedly cutting 15% of U.S. staff. EPA firing DEI workers. And Trump just approved a new budget for the military, over $1 trillion. And he's taken over $100-something billion, 150-something billion to, health and education sectors of government, You know, so a lot of schools are going to shut down. A lot of hospitals are going to shut down, you know. So this thing is going to lead to mass insurrection, man. Right? And this is all scriptural. This is all biblical, man. Matter of fact, let's go real quick to the book of Isaiah, chapter 19. And I'm gonna start at 2. Matter of fact, let's start from the top. It says, the burden of Egypt. Behold, the Lord Yahweh rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt. That cloud is talking about a gigantic chariot, what you people know as UFO or mothership. That's what y'all call it. We call it fathership, which is going to be a planetary size UFO. And there's plenty of videos showing NASA catching UFOs the size, 3 times the size of Earth, 10 times the size of Earth out in space, So Yahweh Shah's chariot is going to be gigantic, man. Ezra, when he saw the second coming, he described the Lord's chariot as a mountain that had no end, that was seen over all the horizon. It says, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it, which is going into what? Your different politicians, your different celebrities that people look up to, as well as the actual idols, the churches, everything is going to be moved, because Yahweh Shah, when he returns, his aura is going to shake the heavens and the earth. Verse 2, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. The Egyptians is the so-called white man. Egypt, according to Revelation 11 and 8, America is spiritual Egypt and spiritual Sodom. Spiritual Egypt because America upholds all the ways of ancient Egypt. They got a pyramid on a dollar bill. They got a city called Memphis. They got the Egyptian obelisk, which is today known as the Washington Monument. And there's many different symbolism in America that ties to the Egyptians. And also the Egyptians had the 12 tribes of Israel in bondage, which is your so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. So America, the so-called white man, is the Egyptians. So the Lord is setting the Egyptians against the Egyptians. The scriptures say, if Satan be divided against himself, how shall a kingdom stand? Which Satan is another title for the so-called white man. So now they're divided. You got the left versus the right. You got Edomites versus Edomites countries. Russia versus Ukraine. They're both Edomites. NATO versus Russia. They're both Edomites. America versus NATO and Russia. They're all Edomites, man. But the Lord is dividing them. Yahweh Shah said, I am not come to send peace, but rather division, to set a man against his brother. So that's talking about men in the truth, but also on a global scale. It says, and they shall fight everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city and kingdom against kingdom. There you go. City against city and kingdom against kingdom. Edomite countries one against another. And the spirit of Egypt shall fall in the midst thereof, and thou will destroy the counsel thereof. So America, the spirit of America is falling right now as we speak. The people are languishing. They're losing hope. They don't see no light at the end of the tunnel. They're about to lose their houses, their cars, everything that they ever worked for is about to go to shambles, man. Their jobs, Could you imagine? He done got master's degree, You spent over 10 years, paying all these, getting loans, student loans and shit, just for your job to shut down. You bought a house. You just bought a house. This is happening as we speak, man. And then now you can't find a job because you're overqualified. Not only you overqualified, there is no jobs, And the jobs that's available is going to be for AI and certain groups of people, So what's going to happen? You're going to have people resort to dire means, looting, pillaging, robbing, murder, women resorting to prostitution. That's what happened in Venezuela when the economy collapsed, and it's still going on, man. So it says, and they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to the wizards. And that's what's gonna happen. They're gonna you're gonna have people actually turn to straight up witchcraft, to try to get an answer. You're gonna have people that's Christians turning straight up Satanists, man, because they'll see that, in their minds, Satan is the way. Because Satan might bless them with certain things in that time, uh, Satan, he blesses people too in the world, you know. He blesses them with, substance, which is why a lot of people like Hollywood, they sell out, especially our people. They can't wait for the covenant. They can't wait for the salvation. And Satan can give them what they need right now. They need the riches now. They need this now. So a lot of people, they're going to turn over to the left hand. It says, and the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord. The cruel Lord is Donald Trump. And the Lord gave you over to him, man. And there's nothing that you can do to stop what he's doing. You can protest all you want, Congress and, these government officials, they could keep talking about how what he's doing is unlawful. They're not doing anything about it. Judges basically be shutting down Trump's executive orders and legislations, but the law still passes, Why is that? Because they're all working hand in hand with one another, man. So it says, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord of hosts. So Donald Trump is that fierce king. He does not give a fuck, man. When they asked him about the empty shelves, he said, all right, yeah, maybe the kids won't get $30 anymore. Maybe they just might have to get $2, And the people on the comments, they're losing their minds, cursing them out, talking about, man, we talking about groceries and necessities. You talking about some dolls, So that's that fierce king, man. And the waters shall fail from the sea, and the rivers shall be wasted and dried up. And this is happening here in America. The Mississippi River, a lot of rivers, a lot of bodies of water in America, they're drying up. You got droughts and floods happening, destroying crops. It says, and they shall turn the rivers far away, and the brooks of defense shall be emptied and dried up. The reeds and flags shall wither, which, the businesses, the flow of currency is all going to wither, man. The money is drying up, no businesses, right? Because that's a brook of defense for a lot of people, man, is their business, their money, their streams of income. All of that is being shut down. The paper reads by the brooks, by the mouth of the brooks, and everything sown by the brooks shall wither, be driven away, and be no more. The fishes also shall mourn, and they that cast angle into the brooks shall lament, and they that spread nets upon the waters shall languish. You got, the fishes, the Lord said, I think in the book of Hosea, the fishes is going to be taken away. The birds of the air, the fishes of the sea. So the Lord is cornering America, man, to where there will be no way out. Because you might have somebody that live by a lake, or they live by the ocean, and they might be good fishers, Esau, take his boats, go fishing. Well, guess what? The Lord gonna take the fish away, man. He's already doing it, So what that's gonna do is gonna cause even more panic, because not only you can't get food from the grocery stores, but food that you should be able to have access to through nature, the Lord is going to take that away. Or you thought you was going to eat a bird? No more birds. The birds all gone. No pigeons, no none of that, man. It says, moreover, they that work in fine flax and they that weave networks shall be confounded. All these different retail stores closing, and they shall be broken in the purposes thereof, and all that make sluices and ponds for fish. Surely the princes of Zoan are fools. The counsel of the wise counselors of Pharaoh has become brutish. Yeah, the scriptures say, where's their wisdom, T-man? You won't be able to get out of what's coming to you, man. It says, I'll say ye unto Pharaoh, I am the son of the wise, the son of ancient kings. Where are they? Where are thy wise men? And let them tell thee now, and let them know what the Lord of hosts hath purposed upon Egypt. It says, the princes of Zoan are become fools. The princes of North are deceived. They have also seduced Egypt, even they that are the stay of the tribes thereof. The Lord have mangled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof. And they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. So America has a perverse spirit in it, man, which is why you go outside, you see a blatant Mo, a grown-ass man, 6'4", 6'5", with high heels on, a beard, makeup, twitching his hips, man. This is a perverse spirit. And now they're trying to legalize pedophilia under the banner of MAPS. You know, they have caused Egypt to earn every work thereof as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. So no more jobs, man. Your Lord is taking away all the jobs. So the head or tail, so the people that's making a lot of money, there might be millionaires or they make six figures, and the tail, which is the bottom, you know, which is mainly made up of our people, the poor, you know, the ones that's on government assistance, the ones that work these low-paying jobs, McDonald's, you know, we get minimum wage, all of that is going to be shut down, man. And that day shall Egypt be like unto women, and they shall be afraid and fear because of the shaking of the hand of the Lord of hosts, which he shaketh over it. Yeah, so people are going to be afraid. The scriptures say the mighty men of Babylon is going to be as women, man. You know? Jeremiah 30, it says, wherefore do I see a man with his hands on his loin? Can a man give birth? Like, why do I see a man on his hands with his hands on his stomach like a woman that got to give birth? And faces is turning to paleness, man. That's how much fear is going to be in these streets. That's why the scriptures say they're going to shut their doors in the streets so that no man may come in because of crimes. Everybody that you see is going to be enemy or a threat, you know. So people going to try to keep themselves. It says, and the land of Judah shall be a terror unto Egypt. So these so-called Negroes that you see in the hoods, they're going to be a terror to America, man. We seen how during the pandemic, how they was tearing shit up, burning businesses, looting and robbing businesses, you know. So it's going to make America afraid, man. And we naturally are the strongest people on the earth. So if there was a race war, our people would definitely win against any heathens, you know. If it comes down to physicality, man, you know. But, you know, Esau, he got the blessing of the sword. So the Lord is going to have him wipe out a great portion of our people. But at the end, you know, our people going to overtake them, you know. And once Judah rises up, the rest of the tribes are going to rise up, man. You know, the Northern Kingdom, the so-called Hispanics and Native Americans, they're going to get together with the so-called Negroes and tear you heathens up. It's going to make America afraid. Everyone that maketh mention thereof shall be afraid in himself because of the counsel of the Lord of hosts, which he have determined against it. That's right. The counsel of the Lord is what? These plagues coming on Babylon. And the main plague is going to be is destruction. And, hey, man, you could use that for us, too, the prophets. We are terror unto this place, man. You know, as these prophecies are coming to pass and we bringing them out of the Bible, people are going to be afraid, man. Like, damn, they've been saying this was going to happen, you know? And then in that day, the Lord is going to be with his men. You know, he's going to raise up that standard. So, you know, brothers are going to be saying things and it might happen right away or within, you know, a short time frame, man, you know? So now let's go to Isaiah chapter 24. Verse, I'm going to start at 7. It says, the new wine mourneth, the vine languisheth, all the merry-hearted do sigh. Why? Because there is no money to be spent, to be going out to bars, to clubs. We in a recession. It says, the mirth of tabrets ceaseth, the noise of them that rejoiceth endeth, the joy of the harp ceaseth. No more concerts, no more going to clubs. All of that is over with. They shall not drink wine with a song. Strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. The city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up that no man may come in. That's right. So the city of confusion is Babylon. Babylon means confusion. The city of confusion being America. America is broken down. The Lord is systematically pulling this place out piece by piece, man. Every house is shut up that no man may come in. As I stated earlier, there's going to be so much crimes in the streets. Everybody's going to be a threat. So people are going to lock themselves in their houses, that no man may come in. There is a crying for wine in the streets, or joy is dark, and the mirth of the land is gone. So no more mirth, man. No more having fun. No more going to parks and, playing basketball, having cookouts in the summer. All of that is over with. Every summer, you know, um, you know, people want to have events, because it's getting warmer, especially up here in New York. And, those states where it's cold, when it start getting warm, that's when people start having fun, because wintertime, you're all tucked in and shit. So ain't going to be none of that anymore, man. No more Labor Day parades. All of that shit is done. And the city is left desolation and the gate is smitten with destruction. That's talking about what? Your defense. America's defense is going to be destroyed. You won't be protected from foreign invaders, from Russia, from China. You won't be protected from terroristic attacks, from drone attacks. It says, matter of fact, that's the point on that. That's the point on that. So now let's go to the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, verse 3. It says, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves. The keepers of the house is the economists, right? When you go into the word economist, it goes back to, is it economia or oikonomia? Matter of fact, let me double check it. Economy. Let's see, etymology. Yeah, oikonomia, meaning household management. You see, oikos meaning house, and nomos means law or management. So house management. So those are the keepers of the house, the economies. They're watching these different trends, the tariffs and how it's affecting America. So a lot of them are leaving America, right? They're trembling. They're stacking up on gold. They're becoming preppers, because they see what's coming down the pipe. The keepers of the house should tremble. We just read what the economists reported for this summer, a recession. And the strong men shall bow themselves. Yeah, man, you got veterans, people that did tours in Iraq, Afghanistan. They're supposed to be strong. You got fighters, UFC fighters, boxers. Well, guess what? They're going to be humbled. They're going to bow themselves, because of how much death is going to be in these streets. And the grinders cease because they are few. So there's going to be very few jobs left. The grinders cease, the workers, because they are few. Few workers, man. There's going to be few work and few workers because massive deaths is coming, man. And those that look out of the windows be darkened. So ain't going to be no light at the end of the tunnel. The forecast for Babylon is looking very grim. It's not looking good, man. Esau always have forecast for, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, Q4 and all that. Well, the predictions is not looking good at all, man. You see, it says, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low. Yeah, so no more jobs. Ain't no reason to be outside, man. Because it's not going to be nothing but death and chaos in the streets, man. The doors shall be shut in the streets. Businesses shutting down. Like we seen during the pandemic in New York City. The whole city was dead, which is unheard of for New York. We talking every day, millions of people all over New York. The city was dead. And they're saying this is going to be worse than COVID. So it says, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. That's right. So no more music, no more concerts, none of that shit, man. No more fun, no more entertainment, no more basketball games and none of that, right? Okay, that's pretty much it on this. Now let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse, start at 6. It says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. That's right. So we seen the wars and the rumors of wars. The war between Russia and Ukraine, the war between India and Pakistan, and so on and so forth. The trade wars, the tariff wars, right? The Lord said, don't be troubled, for these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Yeah, the end is not yet, because what's going to bring about the end is the implementation of the RFID chip, the CBDC implant, the Neuralink, which is the mark of the beast. It says, verse 7, for nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. That's right. So there shall be famines. These empty shelves will lead to famines, grocery store closures, and the grocery stores that's open, they're going to be, charging high prices, man, and people are going to get fed up and rob those grocery stores, which is when, Trump and the military, the executive order that he passed, is going to go all over the U.S. to quench those uprisings, to quench those crimes, right? Because of all the looting and pillaging. It says in pestilences. They've been talking about what? The bird flu, right? Fungi epidemics, and earthquakes in diverse places. And we see that, just in the past, hey, man, the past years, the past weeks, or whatever, past months, but just this past 2 weeks alone, there's been so many earthquakes. I saw a report earlier that showed there's a certain volcano, I think it's in Alaska, that just last week they seen over 300,000 earthquakes, man. There was a 5-point-something earthquake off the coast of New York, of the shores in the ocean. In Chile, there was a 7-point-something. It's clusters of earthquakes happening as we speak. And, they're saying it has also something to do with the sun as well, because, there was a sunspot and what is it, that coronal ejection where the sun sends out this burst of energy and it affects things on Earth. So, that's the signs in the sun Yahushua told us about. But everything is all connected, man, through prophecy, So earthquakes in diverse places, all these are the beginning of sorrows. So this is only the beginning, man. We ain't seen nothing yet, We ain't seen nothing yet, man. This is the beginning of sorrows. And it says the same thing, I think in Ezra's. Yep, this is 2nd Ezra chapter 16, verse 17. Woe is me, who would deliver me in those days? Yahweh Bashim Yahshua is going to be the one who delivers us. People that's not part of this truth, they ain't going to have no way out, man. It says the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death. So we're in the beginning of sorrows and great mournings. People already mourning, crying, losing their jobs, coming online. These women are crying, about losing their jobs. They don't know what to do. They don't know what they're going to do to pay their bills, right? The beginning of famine and great death. Famine is going to lead to great death, man. Not only from the death from the starvation, but also from the death of the people that's starving and that's trying to find something to eat, killing others for the food they have, and even killing others to eat them. Cannibalism is coming, man. This is all in the scriptures, man. And these people here in Babylon, they're not used to any type of adversity. So when it befalls them, they're going to bug out and lose their minds, man, and revert to their beast-like nature. It says, the beginning of wars and the powers shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils, what shall I do when these evils shall come? Yeah, we're going to trust in Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. But it's going to get so bad, it's going to be shaky, man. It's going to be shaky, man. I don't care what brother you are, you're going to be afraid too, but we can't let that fear overcome our faith. We got to solely trust in Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, because we understand that the Most High, Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, they're the ones that's in control of all these things, man. The right hand and the left, So having that knowledge, knowing that the Most High is doing this, is going to give us more confidence, to overcome these things. And we're supposed to pray to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua to give us the strength, faith, and endurance to, withstand these plagues, man. Right? Verse 19, behold, famine and and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. So the Most High is sending these things as as a reproof, as a rebuke, as a scourge, as a whooping stick for amendment, for change. But for all these things, they should not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. So even though all these things are happening, they're not going to repent. You know, they still going to be committing adultery, still going to be homosexuals. They still going to go and, go after their lusts, right? They're not going to turn from their wickedness. They're going to wax worse and worse, man. You know, people now, people already wicked now, they, commit abominations. They eat abominable foods. They worship all these false gods. But these prophecies, these plagues are going to turn them even worse. They're going to turn straight up murderers, cannibals, and, straight up gremlins, man. It says, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. At one point, that was the case, and even now with all these business closures, you're going to have a lot of stores having sales, trying to have clearance, so people, some people might still think, oh shit, Trump, the prices are down now. Trump kept his promise, right? It says, and even then shall evils go upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. So, the prophecies ain't going to stop, man. Sword, what? The gun, wars, invasions, and drone attacks, kamikaze drones, terroristic bomb attacks, cyber attacks, famine, and great confusion. Great confusion, because people ain't going to know what hit them and where they got hit from, It's just like somebody that gets sucker punched. It might just be walking randomly at night, and then out of nowhere, boom, you don't know what hit you. You know what I mean? You collapse, get knocked out. You wake up, you don't know you don't even remember what the fuck happened. Great confusion, man. People are not watching these prophecies. They don't understand that this is Yahweh Shem Yahshua doing this. So when it happens to them, they ain't gonna know what to do, man. And that's gonna be the time of the famine of the word, where they're gonna try to seek the prophets for the answers. But the Lord is gonna take us off the streets due to us being labeled terrorists, as enemies of the state. So preaching this truth is gonna be, life-threatening, So the Lord is gonna remove us off the corners and off the internet too. You got Bill Gates working, basically trying to work with governments and Google to remove websites, YouTube channels, or whatever website, anything online that goes against the vaccine, the clot shot, and towards epidemic. He's talking about how disinformation is worked in the epidemic itself, right? So people are going to be confused. It says, verse 22, for many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. That's right. So like it says in Jeremiah 15, such as are for death to death, and such as are for the sword to the sword, and such as are for the famine to the famine, So you got all these people here on earth, everybody that's not the elect, they have an appointed death, a day for their death, and a certain way they're going to die. Like this person, they're going to die on this day by famine. This person, they're going to die on this day by being drafted to war, and so on and so forth. It says, verse 23, it says, and the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no men to comfort them, for the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. That's right. So, bodies are going to be laid out in the streets. No sanitation, no, no morgues coming to pick the bodies up, and that's going to lead to a lot of epidemics and diseases, man, right? No man is going to comfort the people, who lost their loved ones, man. Somebody dies in the streets, guess what? They're going to have to keep it pushing, man. Because standing still is going to be dangerous. It says, for the earth shall be wasted and the city shall be cast down. Yeah, displaced. The infrastructure is going to be destroyed, man. Buildings, you're going to see buildings crumbling, vegetation growing everywhere, and it's going to go into it. The trees shall give fruit, and who shall gather them? The grapes shall ripe, and who shall tread them? For all places shall be desolate of man, so that one man shall desire to see another and to hear his voice. Like in the movie I Am Legend. They get all of that from the scriptures, man. How I Am Legend, how the scene looked, that's how it's going to look. And you've seen how he was the only one left. And it made him pretty much lose his mind. Talking to mannequins and shit. Because what? He was desiring to hear another man's voice. So they get all of that from these scriptures, man. This specific book, Second Ezra, it goes into all that. That's where the so-called white man get his post-apocalyptic movies from. Verse 28, for of a city there shall be 10 left, and 2 of the field, which shall hide themselves in the thick groves and in the clefts of the rocks. And shit, man. Can you imagine that? A city of hundreds of thousands of people or millions of people being reduced to 10 because of the mass amounts of death that's going to take place, man. And it says how they're going to hide in the thick groves and in the clefts of the rocks, which is going into what? Their different bunkers. You got people that actually got money and they put bunkers under their houses, or they got retreats where they could go to, bug out locations, you know. The rich, they're going to be in their bunkers, you know. And you're going to have people hiding in buildings, hiding in different locations to, you know, not be seen. It says, as in an orchard of olives, upon every tree there are left 3 or 4 olives, or as when a vineyard is gathered, there are left some clusters of them that diligently seek through the vineyard. Even so in those days there shall be 3 or 4 left by them that search their houses with the sword. So it's going to be, 3, 4 left, by the troops. They're going to go house to house, checking to see if, people are chipped. And if you're not, you're getting hauled off to a concentration camp or killed, And as well as, military, American military, as well as foreign military. It says, and the earth shall be laid waste, and the fields thereof shall wax old, and her ways and all her paths shall grow full of thorns, because no man shall travel there through. Yeah, the land is going to be untilled and wild. The virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. Yeah, man. Feminism is going to get, thrown out the window. Women are going to realize in their time how important it is to have a man. They've been deceived into thinking they're equal or better than the men, chasing careers, chasing a bag, So guess what? In that time, they're going to be mourning, man, which is when Isaiah 4:1 is going to come to pass, where 7 women is going to take hold of 1 man, saying, we're going to eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Just let us be called by your name. Let us be your wives, You don't even got to provide for me. I'll be the provider. I got a job. I got food. I got substance. Just please protect me. That's what they're going to be begging for, man. Verse 34, in the war shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine. So your men are going to get sent to the Middle East, to Europe, to Asia, on different theaters of war to die, but mainly in the Middle East. That's where the meat grinder is going to be, right? So your men are going to be destroyed. And that's when you're going to try to seek a man of the Lord. That's what's going to make a man of the Lord more precious than fine gold, man. A rare thing, a rare occurrence to stumble. It's going to be rare to stumble on a man, let alone a man of the Lord, man. So, hey, man, we got great things to look forward to, man. These plagues, it's going to be shaky, but we got to solely trust in Yahweh Bashim El-Shah. And the Lord is going to come through for us, man. Make sure we're preserved. Just like in Egypt, how the Egyptians were getting destroyed while the Israelites were protected. They didn't suffer the plagues, So Yahweh Bashim El-Shah is going to make sure he sees us through all these things, man. So I hope this was edifying. I'm going to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashim El-Shah, Bashim Chakudash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS to give us his truth. And salutations to all you Akim pushing this word. Shalom.